Put yourself in position to win big on Kentucky Derby Day with the power of daily racing form. Visit shop.drf.com and get past performances, expert picks, betting strategies, clock reports, and more. Again, that's shop.drf.com. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at Kentucky Derby contender Kingsbarns. Todd Pletcher has a very strong hand, obviously. He has two-year-old champion and likely morning line favorite Forte. He has Tapit Trice, the winner of the Bluegrass Stakes last time out. And now he has the undefeated progressive Kingsbarns. Let's watch his second lifetime start. He won his debut going a one-turn mile at Gulfstream. Todd likes to run his lightly raced three-year-olds at Tampa Bay Downs to give him some confidence. And Kingsbarns looked very, very good once again, just dominating an overmatched field. And we saw what he could do in the Louisiana Derby. He can adapt to any kind of pace scenario. There was no speed whatsoever. He walked the dog. He was too good.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, the Louisiana Derby, the first, real test for him, as it turned out, didn't really seem like it was that much of a test, Dan. He just really got control of a pretty easy pace that day and just never really let that field in to make it 3 for 3. The good news for Kingsbarns is he didn't have the lead in either of his first two starts, and it really didn't seem to matter. He won that race that we just watched really easily. Even his debut, the one-turn mile at Gulfstream, that was a race where he was actually in a little bit of traffic and needing room until that field came down to about mid-stretch. But once he got it, he went on about his business pretty impressively.
So we know these things about Kingsbarns. We know he has a versatile running style capable of winning from on or off the lead. We know that distance shouldn't be a problem. That was one of the major questions answered in the Louisiana Derby, of course, now being run at 1 mile and 3/16. But do we really know how good Kingsbarns is at the end of the day? The Tampa Bay race we saw, he was odds on against an overmatched field. And in the Louisiana Derby, he couldn't have asked for a better trip. So do you just go off speed figures in this situation? You still can project a lot of upside. And his 95 buyer in the Louisiana Derby, while likely trip and pace aided, it's not too far off the top horses in this crop.
Yeah, I mean, you go off things like that, but you also, when it comes right down to it, you go off price in the Kentucky Derby. I don't think he's the kind of horse that you want to settle for any kind of, even relatively short price on, because he's just so untested and unproven at this point. He has certainly looked good in all three of his starts. I don't have any question that this horse has a good amount of talent. And even the Louisiana Derby last time, I mean, he had an easy trip in there on the lead, but he also, stretching out 3/16 of a mile there, or just about that far, he really kicked on with another good finish at the end. I think this horse is talented. I just don't think you can take any kind of a short price on him in the Derby.
He's by Uncle Mo, a $250,000 yearling who we sold for $800,000 as a 2-year-old. The dam's a half-sister to a Grade 1 winner on the Terp, Gossip Girl. This is the family of Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner Bracco. A lot of quality here. As for Kingsbarns, Mike, and I know the curse of Apollo has finally been broken, but this horse still has no 2-year-old foundation. Is it still that important in this generation of racing where horses don't run that often?
I mean, it seems like it's becoming less and less important because these horses just don't run anymore. Even the horses that do start at 2, they only start, and in many cases, just 2 or 3 times. So at some point, it's just not going to matter anymore. I think as of, right now, I think it does still matter a little bit. It puts these horses up against it, Dan, and nobody's more up against it than Kingsbarns right now.
What price to you would be fair to take on a horse like Kingsbarns? And of course, you don't have to take Kingsbarns if you don't like him at all. But if you're somewhat intrigued by him, with all the questions that we've posted, what is a fair price for a horse like this? You know he's going to take some money simply because he's undefeated, people like W's, and the connections.
Yeah, I mean, personally speaking, I couldn't go, under 20 to 1 on this horse. I do think he's talented. I think this is a pretty good horse, and down the line, very interested to see how he turns out. As far as the Derby goes, he's got to be a big price for me.
In my opinion, he's one of the horses with the most long-term potential of any in this crop. We'll find out if it's a case of too much too soon for Kingsbarns. So far, he's handled everything Todd's thrown at him.